Thank you. That's as far as we can go on that one, then, Aaron.
You talked about a kerfuffle with the band.
Well,
what was that about?
That when we was all old boys, you went to a band. I mean, everything was all good and that. We must have said something to the band leader, which was
bit derogatory, we think.
what was his name?
Oh. Hold on, what was the band leader's name?
We must have said something anyway. Bill.
Not Bill Savetto.
He didn't take to it too kindly, so he got up in front of all the people and said, "Until you apologise, I don't play another note." Remember that, because boys would be boys, wouldn't they? And of course, Bill was he'd always been on the bill when he played, because he could play better when he'd been tanked up. He played the trumpet and so forth. But of course, that was life, wasn't it? But I can clearly remember, I'm not going to play another note until somebody apologises. And that was in Lenham Square. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Bill...
Charlie Spain.
Charlie Spain, yeah. Charlie Spain.
Oh, yeah.
But these race courses, the races was held out here, behind your house now, out here. That's where they were held. And my wife would park the old bike up behind Bill Savetto's there, and we'd walk up what we called Stony Hill in West End, just through the little shaved wood there and across the fields, and of course we'd back onto you there. And that's where the races were held there. Of course they had the old carts and things like that. It was so different today.
But as children, did you help pick fruit?
Sorry?
Did the children help pick fruit as well as the travellers?
Well, I suppose they did help. Well, they probably, where they pick, anybody picking piecework, which they would have been piecework, you only got paid in what you did. I mean, there's no day pay or nothing like that, because for a day's pay you could sit out there and do nothing. So it was all piecework. Being the travellers would pick, and whichever it be, whether it be hops or what like that, they don't mind how they pick them and put them in the basket. The same with cherries, really. You got leaves, you got brush, you got everything. The kids would be there cleaning out the brush and that, so it looked a presentable. The hops. You hadn't got a bin of hops and leaves. You got hops, which you was paid to pick. Because you start putting rubbish in there, it soon fills the bins up, as it were, there. So they would be doing that. But the travellers that came down, where they'd park along the road coming down, it took them a considerable time to come down from London in them days. But they would park on all the green verges there, tether their horses, and as I said, they'd go and find the hazelnuts and make pegs, and that was another thing that they sold, which they did.
Dad, didn't you do, when you was a young lad, you did some beating as well, didn't you?
Aye.
Pheasant, when you were with the pheasants, you did some beating.
Yeah, but they're again, they still do shooting today. They got the shoots that they had, but when we was kids, we'd go beating. If we had a rabbit, if we were given a rabbit to take home, it was like giving you the earth, really. Other than that, you might have been lucky to got half a crown in old money. Yeah. But like pumping the organ and that there, I did that for Aunt Pauline. But weddings, if you pumped it for a wedding, you probably did get, half a crown and probably asked back afterwards if it was only that height sort of thing. But it was something.
So you also said you remembered Grandad Pitts with those silver foxes. Grandad used to actually take, what did he take, a knife and what did you say he took up there to...
No, Grandad would take me. But another thing there, which again, I well remember, sorry, when we were living at Fernley, I don't know how old I was when we come out of Fernley, but I can remember Dad with the push bike sitting me on the bar and riding to the top of Lenham Hill, and they had, if not one or two, light aircraft there, and I can see them now propping it up. They had their white boiler suits on and cranking the plane up, and I think you could go up, and I can remember Dad taking me up to the top of Lenham Hill on the aeroplanes there. So we must have had some entertainment there. I can remember that bike there on this push on the bar of the bike. I can remember that well.
Yes, and as I say,
But the horses, and you see, it's like the corn and cutting the corn. I could probably vaguely, it doesn't come to me, but like the Land Army girls, I'm not so sure. It's probably, we say, Mr. Sage, the dad down Court Farm here, he may have had Land Army girls, I don't know, but I can see them in their uniform, but probably I just can't get that together.
No, that's fine, Dad. Yeah. So, what did you tell me about Grandad Pitts? Because he used to take the pelts off the foxes, didn't he, you said?
No, going back again, when Dad was on the lorries down Doddington, being Dad had connection with the foxes, he was very clever as with a pair of pliers and a razor blade. And of course, in those days you're talking about, anybody could trap a fox. It was big business. They trapped the fox because they wanted the pelt. And Dad being there, I seen him with a pair of pliers hang a fox up, and with a pair of pliers and a razor blade, take that coat off that fox, brush and all, and leaving everything perfect in a short time. Then he would take them home, and I've seen him rub them with saltpeter, hang them on the line, and then he would take them and give them back to whoever took the fox there for him there. He would skin them and do it, because he may have helped up there, although he spent his life on the wagons, because he was on the solitaires for old Ben Elvey would have been here, Hollybushes would have been Ben Elvey.
Right.
And then we got nationalised. We went to Key Street to Bill Elvey over there. Bill was a son, I think. Dad taught him to drive. And then, of course, we got nationalised at Doddington. And then, of course, I said we went to Key Street, and we was travelling the country from there. It was a different kettle of fish altogether.
So when did you pass your driving test and drive the lorries?
Well, I passed my test at Canterbury. I went to Canterbury. Funny enough, I passed it on my first car, a little Austin 7.
Do you remember the car registration number?
Yeah, WV7304. Okay. That was the registration of it. That was my first car, little Austin 7. The petrol tank was all under the bonnet. But again, when I came back out of the Navy, you didn't get that down there. When I was demobbed, we had to go, my base was Chatham. You'll never forget that, do you? CMX 781968. That number's embedded in you, isn't it, like a tattoo? We come back to Chatham, we had to go all the way back down to Portsmouth to get the demob suit. So we got the demob suit, and I had the Austin 7, and the bloke that used to, he's gone now, but Stuart, not Stan Harrison, we went to the Epsom races in that Austin 7, and Percy Neve said to me, he said I'd have never took that on, but we went there, and I can remember going there. Of course, there wasn't much traffic, was there? I mean, the old Trilby blew out the window because of all the Trilby, because it was a big business, and we had time to stop out and walk out in the middle of the road and pick it up. He got his window open, my window was open, yet went off, but that was, it
mown down and killed.
We went to the Epsom Derby, and we come back home, and that was with an little Austin 7, my first motor.
So did you go into the Navy driving and then come out?
Yes. Yeah, because I must have just passed my test then, because I said to Ken, you'd got to be 17, I think, to pass the test then. But I went to Canterbury and I passed it. It doesn't seem right now. But I passed my test with that, and I got my licence to drive whatever with the Austin 7. I took my test in Canterbury.
I think you told me
I also took a test. I also drove the coach again to take the children on their Sunday school out in there once a year. I took another test to get the PS public service vehicle licence. I got that badge still at that. I took a test on that, and I take the children once a year, and whether it be Joss Bay or Margate or Dymchurch. That was another thing.
Taking us to school sometimes.
Exactly. When I did the school, I took them to school. All in addition, this is what I just cannot work out, why our life was so busy. from the word go, from a young lad of going to school to working up until almost 80 and keeping that going. What we did for other people, in addition to fruit picking, I still found time to drop everything to go and pick the children up at 3:30 to pick them up from school. I'd take them to school in the morning in the bus.
I know. I can remember it, Dad. You've always worked very hard, haven't you?
And one turn there, I mean, I had 13 people when we bought that last piece of fruit at Bexon Crossroads there. There was about 13 acres in there. I don't know, I didn't have about 13 pickers there working in there.
You've had an interesting and varied life, Dad, doing very many
Well,
things.
with the animals, I
haven't you?
said to you, the album we got a tone with all the animals and the ground that we cropped up. It's lovely to see it now, but there's no little people, not many little people like us left anymore.
No.
It's all big farmers now.
Definitely. You
You
are
name them all, you take
a
the...
dying breed, sadly, Dad, I think.
I think it is, yeah. There's no more little fields. They want 300-acre fields now. They don't want a 25-acre, 30-acre farm. They want
small-holding much as
fields.
you've had for the last 60 years.
Well, you see, the equipment they got today is ginormous, isn't it?
Mm.
But there's a lot, you know, a lot of going on in the old days there.
I seem to remember you telling me, Dad, that you had a drive of the lorry when, if Grandad Pitts was at the wheel, didn't you have a little drive when you was only about 14?
Yeah, we did, we did. And I can remember coming home from London there driving. It wasn't with Dad, it was with another driver. I was driving. Good job it was raining, a little police car drew up. And that's when they had the little MGs for police cars there. And I can remember going back in time, I mean, a little police car, he was travelling a lorry, and I believe the lorry, legend has it, the chap knew the police car was behind, and I suppose he got the hump. He pulled up dead, and of course the little MG went straight underneath the back of the lorry.
Ooh,
There, yeah.
such a good
I'm not so
story.
sure whether the driver did escape or whether he didn't on that there, but it was a known thing that he pulled up there.
But you didn't get caught driving underage?
I didn't get caught for driving, but I got pulled in a check on the lorry for insufficient steering. The steering wasn't quite pulled up by the ministry.
Right.
On that, I think it was the other side of Chatham many years ago when it was, I suppose, BRS, I suppose it was here.
Were they easy to drive, those lorries, Dad?
No, there's
Light
really
on
like
steering?
driving a tank they were. You've got to stand up nearly and pull the steering wheel round. Not like today. You see these big Jaggernauts today, they drive easier in a car. They just go like that and the wheel, the unit's round, isn't it? And they even come back in the narrowest place. But in them days, you might as well have a steamroller. But of course, when you go back again, in my days of driving, it was 20 mile an hour for the heavy vehicle and 30 mile an hour for the lighter vehicle, with say 6 ton and under. I mean, there's no comparison with the wagons today with 40 tons in the back of them, but it's up to 6 or 7 ton on the little one. And then when you went over that, they were allowed to go. The smaller ones were 30 mile an hour and the big ones was 20 mile an hour, and that was the limit in them days. I mean, to go, when we was going north, Newcastle under Line, that would be a day's work from Elvis at Key Street to drive to Newcastle under Line. We'd book up a bed a night there, but that would be a day's running there to go there, either 11. I think our hours to work in them days on the lorries was, you was allowed 12 hours a day and the rest was 11 hours for the week.
Right.
So there's 7 days in a week. You could get 6 11s is 66 and 2 12s is 24. So that was the hours that you was allowed to work.
Right.
And my first pay when I went to work, I mean going back to Mum's dad, was 10 shillings a week he got. My money when I first went to work was 25 and 4pence. It's a job to put money now to relate it to our money, 25 and 4pence. You can't remember the LSD. It's
No.
it's
It doesn't seem very much compared to what we earn now.
That was the basic pay.
But
of course, when we go to London and that, we always got what we call beer money. When you unloaded, if you went there, if I went up there with a load of new potatoes from the Thanet and I unloaded them on the stand, which would be no workman there, not at midnight, you'd get the key off the Beadles. If you was going to Spitalsville Market, they was Beadles, which run them markets, like a police, if you like, they was called Beadles. You got the key, you unlock the stand, you unlock then, if there was any empties to pick up, you would pick them up and come home. But when you did take your ticket in to get your ticket signed, whenever you did, you get your beer money for doing it.
Fantastic.
And if you got, you know, a few shillings, but that also kept me, because I could save my money that I earned, and I lived off the beer money.
Must have, even though the money sounds small, I mean, how much was the Austin 7, Dad? Can you remember?
I think I sold it to, Roy Neves bought it, I think I sold it for £100, I think I sold it for at them
Can you
time
remember
there.
what you paid for it?
No, I don't. If I bought that off my uncle, I could have paid £90, we'll say. I don't know. Yeah, £90, yeah.
So your wages, I mean, because like now, that would be a fortune.
No, I know the first motor, when I knew Mum, that was that Morris 10 was a nice motor. I paid £300 for that, and I bought that off of Burt Webb's garage
And
at
when was
Wheatston. That belonged to one of the rectors at Doddington.
1954?
Yes, because I got married in 55, so it could have been 53. Yeah, I could have had it. Well, give and take some either way.
So although the wages seemed small, you was able to buy quite a
Well,
few
I was forced to really, and you know, some of the boys and that we went with when I come home, they liked to come out with me because I might as well say I was flush really.
Exactly.
With the pennies. I mean, the money every night going to London, it accumulated at the end of the week what you got.
Yeah.
I mean, if you went to a stand there and you got 10 shillings, 10 shillings in them days was a lot of money, but you saved a lot of work because you'd unloaded your lorry and that there, and I probably lived on my what we called beer money, as it were, there.
And saved your wages.
Yeah, but see, when you're talking about your basic pay, you didn't work on your basic pay, but that was the basic pay. 25 and 4 was the basic pay, but all the other got to be overtime. But when I come to think, the sugar beet and stuff like that was grown down here in the southeast, like on Doubleday's farms. We'd have days on there with a fork, shoveling it up in the lorry or forking into the lorry, taking it down to Tenham when that was working as a station, which is not now, it's built up on, and unloading it in the truck for the sugar beet to go to, I've been to their factory, is it Peterborough or somewhere up there, Silver Spoon, I think that's the people what do that. That is our homemade sugar. Tate & Lyle's is bought in from Broad sugar, cane sugar.
Right.
But that Silver Spoon, I think you'll find, is from, if I say Peterborough, I might not have that right, but we've gone in there to pick up the waste, which was called sugar beet pulp, which is fed to the animals.
Right.
And in sugar beet pulp, it's good for the animals. It is really good because there's a certain amount of sugar and that left in the. It's like you taking the zest off a lemon, really.
Yeah.
The sugar beet, I suppose, was ground and pressed, and the syrup was taken out of it and turned into
Cattle feed.
But going back again to the Navy, Teresa said to me, I don't think it come up in there, did it?
We're going to do the Navy.
When we was at sea for any length of time, unless of course you was in dock, then you would get some fresh veg brought in. A lot of the gear on there, i.e. cabbage, was dehydrated. And your potatoes, I mean, you can go and buy something they call smashed a day, isn't it, or something like that, which to me is a bit like a dehydrated thing. You bring it back to life.
No, that's
I think
right,
I'm right in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that would have been some of the things I know.
Yeah.
But I can always remember again another thing on there was suet. You had to render down suet. You suet that you went and bought. So it's all altered today. Suet you buy in a packet. Years gone by, you go to the butcher's and buy a block of suet. To render it or run it down if you like. And I can remember on board there, I must have taken the interest. We had blocks of suet, but to render it down, you run your suet down into a liquid.
Right.
You've got a copper of cold water, and you tip that liquid into there and keep that moving like that. That would bring it back into like suet, which was manageable to use to make puddings, etc. It brought it back to suet.
These days, Dad, very few people buy suet in packets. I think they buy it already done. I think now too.
Well, well, it would be, yeah. I mean, if I make a meat pudding, I do just the same. I use that packet suet.
Yes.
But the other day, going back in years, you went to the bushes and bought, a quarter pound of suet. But see, the pound measurement again is another thing. It's in kilos now, isn't it? Really.
Many changes, Dad.
Many changes, but you could go on and on. I mean, like with the horses, I really, it must be interesting to some of the kiddies to look at the books and see the way the farming was in the days gone by. It's going down Cuthbert's. We lived down there as kids, I did, but you'd go around with the old horses. They'd cut the corn with the binder. I mean, I don't know if they know what a binder was today, with the horses, and it would throw a sheath out. And them sheaths were stuck in the field like that, and we run round and we picked the sheaths that they'd thrown out and put a stuck of about 8 sheaths, so they stood up like that. But time waited, the weather must have been different. Them sheaths was collected up with the horse and cart, which we did, and took them and put them to the farm in stacks. And some of the stacks which you see in photos today was most beautifully made, with the round stack, the oblong stack. They was made and put in beautiful. Then they had time to thatch them. They thatched them, and then of course going back again, you had the thrashing machine which came round, and Chapman's of Newnham had all thrashing equipment. And I can remember going again down Cuthbert's when they were thrashing the corn there, and being they come up from the wheeled Cuthbert's, they was keen on making cider. And they still used to make cider when they were at Doddington. And we had some cider, but we didn't know whether we was on foot or horseback when we was only old boys. And I remember going home, but God, I took some stick for that. God, lovely. But of course,
those were the days, eh, Dad?
But it was, see, it's like, you say what you do for entertainment. Today, you've got everything today. There wasn't so much in them days, were there? You got the Hippodrome, I think it was in Chatham, and another one. There was 2 sort of theatres here. You could go to a show there, but other than that, you made all your own entertainment. It was made. You had your Saturday night dances. Whist drives was a main thing. Another thing, whether they still hold them now or not, I don't know.
I don't think they do.
But they had the outing, because I suppose life was different. They had the outing once a year, and
it's totally changed, Dad. Leisure has changed, from your time. Everything is now computerised.
I should think so.
It's a very different world.
Yeah.
Should we break for a cup of tea?
Well, only if you're going to have one, I'll have one. Or are you going home now? I know.
Would you like tea or coffee?
I'll have a tea, please, if you're going to have a tea.
Coffee, please.
Thank you.